Welcome to today's training. We will get started in just a few minutes. Great, so this is a training today about how CrowdTangle works. Feel free to ask questions as we go along today. And this is a dashboard that I'm using just to demo and start talking through how the system works. So CrowdTangle at the helm is going to help you find and track content across social. Many of you are coming into election season, so you can use this to track politicians, local events, and from the main use cases, you can use this to internally benchmark your own content. So how well does your stuff perform for your pages, your accounts, your talent? That's the first use case. The second way is benchmarking competitively. So you can do this and compare media in Colombia or Chile or Argentina or elsewhere, and you're able to see where you stack up. And then lastly, you can also use this for discovering content. So being able to find and source stories, understand what kind of framing is happening, and also be able to see what kind of traffic is generated about a keyword or about your site. So you can track as much as you want. There's a couple things to note here. On the top left nav, you'll be able to see the Facebook icon, but this works and operates for multiple platforms. So we also have Reddit, Twitter, and Instagram. You'll be able to see these in the dropdown on the top. Additionally, if you want to invite other colleagues to your dashboard, the gear on the very top right is going to be your home base. So if you click the gear and just click invite people, this is where you can actually add in, for example, any keyword, any emails, and be able to quickly add colleagues or other folks within your organization to the dashboard. You'll click send email, and this will send an email to that person asking them to log into CrowdTangle. They will authenticate with their Facebook profile and be able to get in directly. And then CrowdTangle looks at a post level and a leaderboard level view of content. And we're able to look at a couple of these metrics on the top to sort and filter as well. So right now I'm looking at overperforming content, and that's essentially what is the heart of our system, and going to show you what's bubbling up and taking off on social. And again, we're looking in the last 2 hours. So based on the pages that I follow, a bunch of international pages, athletes, influencers, competitors, you're seeing content that's starting to perform well within the last 2 hours. So for example, this CNN in Espanol post came in 1 hour ago. It has 573 comments, which is 541 more comments than CNN in Espanol usually gets on a link post after that period of time. So really early in the life cycle, this post is exceeding expectations by 12.9 times. We look at the last 100 posts to benchmark, and we do that by the content. So this is looking at links based on links, and then also by time step. So you're able to quickly see what kind of content is starting to take off. A really good use case for overperforming would be to get a daily or weekly digest of your overperforming content to see what's working. And then the little toggle to the right here, you can also use underperforming. So maybe what stories fell flat that week or that day, and you're able to see what's working and advise your digital strategy. Additionally, there's other metrics here within the dropdown. Total interactions is always going to favor the largest posts. So just based on likes, comments, shares, reactions added up, these are the most interactions for stories within the last 2 hours again. So your stream of content will essentially update based on what you are setting with the metrics. And then lastly, interaction rate is going to be great for smaller pages where maybe you want to see and take into account all the engagement divided by the size of the page. So maybe I'm a smaller page and I want to just see how engaged my audience is. This is a great way for you to see those metrics. So you're seeing Sopitas, TV Journal, right? You're able to see quickly what kind of stories are actually being engaged on social. And then most recent is just exactly what it sounds like. Most recent, no metrics attached, but you're able to quickly see what's coming in. So feel free to toggle using these. The one note that I will make is you'll see the weights on the bottom left of the navigation bar. This is a great way for you to actually give more importance or less importance to engagement. So right now I'm giving weight to a like, a comment, a share. I can also give weights to reactions. So if you turn these on, again, your stream will reorder based on how you've set these up. Oftentimes we see, I really care about share. So what I can do is de-weight a like or comment, and again, all those reactions, and only look at what were the most shared stories. And again, your stream will then repopulate based on that specific weighting. Feel free to use this to your advantage. I'm going to put these on. The one thing to note is that because these are shared dashboards, whatever weighting system you have set will be available for everyone that has access. Additionally, if you're exporting the data, the weighting will be taken into account. So think about how that looks. Additionally, the gear here will be able to turn them on, but also give more weight. So for example, I might want to give comments a little more than a like, and I might want to give share the most. You're also able to do that and then set that as a default. Additionally, we've been looking at the last 2 hours for time frame, but you can always change that as well. So if you want to look at the last news cycle and see what kind of stories have been popping, you're able to do that. If you're doing any reporting, so if you want to see how well something did this week or last month, you're able to do that here. 1 year ago is our version of Time Hop. So you can actually see what performed well 1 year ago today. That's a really good example of using things that fall on the same day, like an anniversary, a holiday. You may be able to repurpose a story or see what was popping last year at the same time. And then additionally, you can use our custom date range. So whether it's what kind of content worked well last year, what kind of content worked well in the month of July, if you have a major event or holiday, you're able to go historically back. For many of you that are working on elections, it could be what happened 4 years ago and what kind of content worked. So you can go back any 3-month period to see what kind of content is generated. And feel free just to pop those in. You can also filter by types of posts. And this is a really good way to see how something is framed, for example, what image may be resonating when people are talking about a keyword, as well as video data. So if I click Facebook video, this is going to give you a couple additional pieces of data that you haven't had before. So you're seeing, for example, all the videos, and our weight section will update and show you total views or post views. And this is a good example using a cross-posted video. So we will show you the post views. And what that means is how many particular views this video received. So this received almost 27,200. And again, that number next to it, the blue number, is how many more post views this video received compared to its average. So how it usually performs. Additionally, on the right-hand side, you'll be able to see a total roll-up. This is a good example with cross-posting because we will show you the breakout. So we'll show you the breakout of how many views came from, again, this particular post, 26%. And then how many views came from shares. So oftentimes if a video is doing really well, it may be popping because people are clicking that share button on Facebook. And then this was specifically cross-posted. And so we will actually show you the cross-posted views and, again, the percentage. So you're able to see additional layers of data around video. And again, just the toggle here will get you back to types of posts, and you can customize this however you want. Additionally, the more section here, the last piece of metrics, have a bunch of things that you're able to sort by. One is going to be language filter. So if you want to filter between Portuguese and Spanish, you're most certainly welcome to do that, or any other language. You can also filter by size. So maybe you just want to see the smallest pages or biggest. You can filter by verified. So if you're looking at politicians or influential pages, you're able to, media, as well as branded content. So again, that little toggle will turn on if you're doing any branded content as well. So really easy way to see that. And then I can quickly come in here and, for example, look at the most engaged branded content to get inspiration or ideas, or send that to your teams. And then the dashboard is built out of 3 parts mainly. The first part are the lists that you see here on the left-hand side of the navigation. And lists are things you know you want to track. So you're seeing everything from a page by itself, because that's a page I care about. Maybe I'm seeing competitive. Also, you're able to build out lists for politicians, influencers, celebrities, anybody that you care about, local police and fire. Think about anything that is hyper local to you. So in Colombia, do you want to see everything from Bogota to Medellin? Do you want to see politicians and the president? Do you want to track the Pope as he's thinking about, doing his visit in September? What are the things that you want to track? So lists are pages or accounts that you care about. And the ways that you can start to pull these are lists that I've created. So this is a list of competitors. This is specifically a list looking at media in Colombia. So right now, we are now zeroing in on these 24 pages in Facebook around Colombian media. And I can still have the same capabilities to use these metrics. So right now I'm looking at the most overperforming content in the week. And here are all the stories that are populating, whether it's from RCN or El Colombiana or Caracol. You're able to quickly assess what kinds of stories are being generated, so you can see how you do. And then what's nice is the leaderboard view that we haven't shown you yet gives you that high-level overview of where you sit compared to everyone. So for example, this graph on the top is showing you sort of the ebbs and flows of those 24 pages. So oftentimes you may wonder, is it just us having a down day, or is everyone? You're able to quickly assess sort of those points at which you had a spike or a lull. And then again, what's nice is if you scroll down, this is again looking at that sort of competitive set. I can look to see who's growing the fastest. And again, this is going to be in the time frame. You can select that time frame. So maybe you want to see it pre-election or post-election. I'm looking at the last 7 days. So W Radio is leading the charge with growth. Who's got the biggest following? Caracol. And then views on owned videos. This is going to give you some additional data, again, as we saw in the stream. So for Caracol, we are seeing that a lot of their content is coming from the particular posts, and then from shares. And then we will show you the breakout of views while a video was live and then non-live. So a lot of people are watching their videos after they have finished. this is where it starts to get interesting, this average posts per day. So Pulso, for example, is leading that. And again, this average bar at the top is going to show you how many posts per day on the average this list is doing. So 61 times is the average. And do you sit above or below that? So Pulso, for example, is in the last week has posted over 2,000 times, most of which are links and then video content. Whereas RCN has posted about half that, 1,000 times. But again, most of our links followed by photo and then video. Got a call radio, a little less again, but mostly links and video. So you're able to quickly see what kind of content is working, and also just understand from a competitive standpoint what people are doing on a platform. You can also filter by interaction rate, as I mentioned, so how engaged and what kind of content is working. For Noticias Uno, their video is really doing well. For Win Sports, for example, again, they're getting a lot of engagement from people sharing their videos for sports. And then you can also filter by total. And again, this is based on all the reactions, likes, comments, shares. El Espectador is leading that. And again, you can see the breakout. So you're able to quickly assess. And this is great for folks doing work in audience or on the social side to understand what kind of content is being generated. For anyone that is doing reporting or interested in exporting this data and using it to your advantage, this little arrow here to the right is a great way you can actually just export this data. So if you're doing any sort of manipulating of that data or showing it to your boss or in a report, you can easily automate through our notifications, which I'll talk through, and then also exporting this data. Additionally, this little toggle on the very left that says all posts will show you a few other things. So for folks that are specifically working on video, own video will show you how much of your content that you've done and what kind of analytics. So for example, these are videos that each property has produced, and how many, for example, videos were posted, how many interactions on those videos, how many came from shares. So again, really good way to quickly see what kind of content is working and how you stack up. And then additionally, the other leaderboard that sits here is our shared video. And this is where you are actually then sharing the video. So you can see how, again, you stack up and how many views are coming from shared videos, how many you're actually sharing, and the interactions. It's a really easy way to set these up to your advantage. If you want to create a new list, and what we recommend is really customizing it and setting it up so it's very specific. If you're setting up general lists, you're going to get general content. If you click Create New here, you can easily come in here, and if I just wanted to add RCN, for example, you can do this in English or Spanish or Portuguese. You can do it in any language. If you click Manage and then Add Pages, you can just type in the keyword. So if I just type in RCN, then I'm going to get all of the pages that include RCN in the keyword. So you're seeing everything from Mundo to Radio to Deportes. So you're able to quickly assess what pages you want. And maybe I want to add actually the news one, and that's it. Again, if you want to add others, you can certainly just click Add to a List. And then what I can do is just click Remove if I want to just remove them. So very simple. And we will show you which page is verified as well. So really easy way to add. And then again, you can always view the pages in the list. And then you can always change the name of the list as well. So up to you. So think about what those lists are that you would want to create. I would think about, especially for elections, parties, candidates, potential politicians that are just influential, right? As well as competitors as far as media. And then anything that's hyper local. So again, can you look at, everything in Bogota versus elsewhere? Maybe you want to do it by community or city within the country, so you're able to assess and quickly do that. The searches are the second part here that I mentioned, and those are going to be right below lists. So if you click searches and click create new, this is going to be keyword based. So you're able to quickly look and see what kind of content is generated about that keyword. So if I type in, for example, Papa Francisco, he's coming to Colombia in September, this is going to show you everything in CrowdTangle's database based on the keyword Papa Francisco. So this is, again, content that's bubbling up, it's overperforming in the last 2 hours. And if I look at the last news cycle or I look back, again, that will increase. So here are all the stories that are bubbling up just based on that keyword Papa Francisco. You're able to see, again, what image is resonating, what kind of stories are being shared. Is that just in Colombia, or is it also in countries like Peru or Chile or Argentina? And how are different media entities looking at that keyword? Who's influential or verified as well, and who's sharing that content. So you can easily just come in here and create this. Once you click more search options, you'll see that you can get more specific and granular as far as how you actually search. So for example, that list of Colombian media that we looked at, maybe I just care about that list. So I want to see how people in Colombia are talking about the keyword. Really easy way to do that. So you can exclude content, search within lists. So you have a great ability to get very specific and really granular with your data. Once you click Save Search, that search term will always then appear on the left-hand side of your navigation. So this is the one that we just set up. And again, you're able to see quickly stories that are starting to bubble up and take off in the last news cycle. The leaderboard will give you all of those pages, which is really great. So you're able to see, for example, who's got the biggest size. Maybe there are fan pages that are sharing content, how well that content performed as well, and then video views. So anything related to this, you can filter by. And this is a good way to see what pages, whether they're influential or large, you are actually talking about a keyword. And also, people will potentially create partnerships with this. So there's a bunch of ways that you can use this data to see where your traffic is being shared from a keyword as well. So really simple. And again, you can use this for any other sort of election coverage. Maybe you want to see, for example, a politician, or maybe you want to check out and understand where your traffic is coming from. There's a bunch of capabilities that you can do to sort of understand what kind of stories are being generated, essentially. So whether it's, Juan Manuel Santos, you can easily just come in here and add his name. And again, we're going to get anybody within CrowdTangle's database that's talking about that keyword. And again, then you can take a look back if you want to look at, say, the last week. What were the biggest stories? What were the biggest videos? You're able to easily come in here and do that. And then you can look at the biggest, for example, again, total. You can always change up the metrics and see what kind of stories are being shared. Are they negative? Are they positive? Is there a way that you could take a different angle? So you're able to quickly assess this. And then again, if you want to click search and you want to save that, and we'll go through this again. So Juan Manuel, you'll populate the save search. And again, you can just save that directly on the left-hand side of your navigation. So you're seeing this now within your saved searches. And I have everything from, presidential candidates to, celebrities to an event. You're seeing things like the Pulitzer Prize or, World Cup. So you're able to check out whatever you want. And again, that leaderboard is going to give you which pages are talking about that keyword. So really good way to quickly assess that. And then notifications ties everything together. So these are going to be on the top part of the navigation here. And there's a couple of different versions that you can do. The alerts that you see here on the very right can be funneled into Slack if you're using that. We have an integration. But these are really good ways to start with, essentially, if you want to see any mention, so if any politician gets mentioned, you want to know about it, the referral is a great way to do that. If you want to track where your content is shared, referral is the thing. For many of you in breaking news sort of election coverage, the viral alert will be really interesting. So again, you could do an alert around Juan Manuel and pull in that search. So what this will do is anytime someone posts about Juan Manuel Santos and it does better than 10x, you'll get a notification about it. So you can always change this threshold. Maybe you want to see it when it gets to a higher virality. Maybe you want to see it when it just starts to take off. You can essentially do whatever you'd like. The one thing to note is the viral alerts will come. So you'll get a lot of them potentially. So be cautious about the thresholds, but you can always tweak as you go. And then just click create and subscribe. And now you would be subscribed to anytime it hits that threshold, you'll get a notification about it. So that's one way. The leaderboard is a good way for you to see how you stack up competitively. So again, if we wanted to pull in that list of Colombia media, I can easily do that. And maybe I want to do something weekly. You can change the time frame here. I'm going to do a competencia Facebook leaderboard, and I'm just going to name it. And again, you can do this in English, in Spanish, in Portuguese, in whatever language you prefer. Up to you, really simple. And then you can create what kind of leaderboard you want. So again, this is one that's going to look at how you sit compared to everyone in the market. And then the digest, there's a bunch of ways to use this. If you're on the report, you're working with reporters and journalists, you could do this by beat, for example. So if I wanted to look at, I was a politics reporter and I wanted to track the Pope's visit to Colombia, I could easily get a digest of the trending stories overnight. So I could do something custom, for example, and say you get in maybe in the morning at 7 in Colombia. You could do the last 12 hours, for example, and we can actually, we need to change the spelling on this one. But you can easily then select what kind of thing you want. So I want to know, stories taking off for the Pope's visit, or however you want to set these up. You can always just create these, set them up, and then subscribe yourself. So you could get stories that are taking off about the Pope, and those might be great to bring to a morning meeting and give you some inspiration as to what competitors are doing or what you might actually create a story on. But also you might want to actually see what angle you might take if you're going to write that story. So a really simple way to do that here. And the notifications will help you automate everything. So what I would suggest is really building your lists and your searches, and then sending all of that to email. So you can just get those emails, and then over time, here and there, edit, remove, add, and you'll be all set for CrowdTangle. The last two things that I want to walk through for you all today are really important around elections and events, as well as seeing where your stories were shared. So I'm going to go back into the search, and I'm going to pull maybe a big story in the last month. Great. So say, for example, there's an article that's doing really well, and you're noticing this maybe within your analytics tool, or somewhere else. I'm just going to pull this article. We have a Chrome extension that you can easily download. It's free and it's in the Chrome store, so you don't have to have access to CrowdTangle. And what will happen is once you install it, it will live on your browser. And this is an example on this specific URL, seeing where that story was shared. So the top piece will show you the interactions. So we're able to show you Facebook, likes, comments, likes, reactions, comments, shares, the breakout. If anyone on Pinterest, for example, posted this article, and then if anyone on LinkedIn posted this article. And then below, the referrals are pages within CrowdTangle or accounts that have actually shared this specific URL. So we're able to show you what they actually said. I can tell you the date, how many interactions it received, and then I can also directly go to that link, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or Reddit, and see what and how that story was shared. So this is a really good one for journalists, reporters, but also folks on social to see where their stories are shared, what traffic is generating, and also to make sure you don't miss a big influential page or person sharing that content. And then the last piece here that I'll talk through is we've been just looking at Facebook today, but as I mentioned, it works for Instagram, Twitter, for Reddit, and there's a way that you can make the dashboards collaborative. And the way that you can do that is if you click the gear on the very top right, and then click visualizations, you'll be able to see create new live display. And so from here, what I can do is click create new, and I'm gonna do this for Colombia. And you can create basically like a TweetDeck version, except it's multi-platform. So you'll be able to choose a stream of posts if you want, a leaderboard, trending topics on Facebook or Google, and then that 1 year ago filter. So for example, if I choose leaderboard and I pick by my list, I can then go and pick that Colombia media list that I care about. And now I'm gonna see this in a leaderboard version within this dash. So I can quickly come in here and look at how everyone stacks up compared to everyone else. And so for example, Caracol has 18% of the share of voice. And that means they have 18% of the total interactions today. El Espectador has 16, so you're able to see where people sit. And then what you can do is also create streams of content. So if I do a post stream and I want to pull in that Papa Francisco search, I can certainly do that. So this is going to be looking at the Pope on Facebook. And again, I can do this on Twitter or Instagram. So if I did that same search, for example, I have a lot of stuff in here. I don't know that I have that, but say for example, and I'll do this so you can see it, but say we created that same search on Twitter for the Pope. So we went to our Twitter dashboard, we quick searches, create new, and did Papa Francisco, and we save that search. Again, it will live on the left-hand side here of the dashboard. And then when you're looking at pulling it into the display, what you can do is, again, pick your dashboard. So I'll pick Twitter and then go pick out my search that I set up. Click save. And so now I have a leaderboard and then a stream of content around the keyword for the Pope on Facebook and on Twitter. What I can do is, if you hover over the middle of the stream, you'll see that little hand. It's a little small, but hopefully you can see it. What you want to do is hover over the middle of that. So again, that hand happens, and just drag and drop. And so once you do that, you'll be asked, do you want to merge these columns? Click OK. And then what'll happen is you now have in one column keywords around the Pope on Twitter and on Facebook. So you can add multiple platforms within a stream too. It's a really simple way to do this. Again, if you want to do this by trends, these are going to be, a lot of these are US based. You can't get specific for country, but just so you can see them. You can use that little arrow here to change how they sit. The X is a way for you to actually delete a column, but really simple way to quickly come in here and add streams and content to a list. So imagine you're using this for election. You could do it for election keywords, candidates, maybe issues around gender, health, corruption, politicians, you name it. You can pull this in really simply, and then be able to also, again, hey, I want to pull in Juan Manuel and see what kind of content is being shared. You're able to quickly do that here. So the live displays are a really good way for you to track in real time and passively share information in a newsroom with reporters. And people have used these on air, for example, the gear on the very top right. You can make this public. And so that means you can share it with other people that don't have access to CrowdTangle. You can also make it available for a TV. So whether it's maybe a big screen, maybe it's on air, it will just showcase based on the size. Maybe it's just your laptop. You're able to quickly see that here as well. And here's an example just so you can see it. I have a bunch, but just so you can see some election ones. This was from the France election, and it includes, again, multi-platform. So this is looking at Reddit and Twitter and Facebook. And this is just a way to see what kind of stories are being generated for the French elections. We did this for India, Brazil, Mexico. So you're able to really customize these by a vertical or by an event. So that's how you can use CrowdTangle to start finding content, understanding what's working, and then analyzing how well that's doing. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But otherwise, we hope that you enjoyed today's training, and we'll see all of you hopefully soon.